past 2 years or so, we've been conducting interviews on the New Ulm Community Access television station with United States military veterans from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and Iraq-Afghanistan War. Most of these interviews were with veterans from the Army and the Marines, with 2 men from the Air Force and 1 man from the Navy who had duty on an aircraft carrier. World War II vets are getting very scarce, but we've located several U.S. Navy vets for today's interview. One of them is in the U.S. Merchant Marine. It doesn't take much to figure out the age of vets from World War II, as they're going to be in their late 80s and some of them in their 90s. With help from the Brown County Veterans Office, we recently got a list of 9 or 10 vets that were still around. But sadly, between the time we started contacting them and scheduling the interviews, 3 of them had passed away. So you can see sometimes we miss an opportunity to talk with them. Today we have 2 vets from the Navy, including myself, and 1 from the U.S. Merchant Marine. Here they are in uniform from over 70 years ago. Richie Roesch, John Arsers, and myself, Tom Groebner. Okay, guys, first of all, I think we're going to talk a little bit about how we grew up and got in the service. I'll just give you my little rundown and you'll get your turn. I was born and raised in New Ulm, and along about the time I was in high school, in the first year of freshman in high school, 14 years old, is when the Japs attacked Pearl Harbor. Most of us remember that day. I do, I know. I remember exactly what happened and where I was and all that. And of course, we spent most of the war in high school, and in our senior year, we were going to be 18 years old. And at that time, when you turned 18, you were drafted in the Army, just automatically. But some of us felt we wanted to go in the Navy, so we had to sign up before we were 18. And by doing that, of course, then when we turned 18, the Navy could grab us at any time, and it turned out that we missed about a month of high school. We had to take extra courses to get the necessary credits. So when we hit 18, well, then we went into service, and of course the U.S. was still going full bore in the war at that time, you know. That was April of 1945. And then I went on to get boot camp training at Great Lakes, Illinois. Now, Richie, you want to give us an idea how where you grew up and how you got in open service?
I grew up in New Ulm. I was born in 1927, and I lived in the same place all my life. And then when I went to school, I did real good in school until my senior year. And I got into a little trouble with the teacher, and she threw me out once, and I got back in again. And the second time she threw me out, I went down to Broadway and hitchhiked to Mankato, lied about my age, and joined the service.
What year were you in high school? What year?
44.
And what year were you in high school? A sophomore or junior?
Senior.
Oh, senior, okay.
Senior.
All right.
And
then you went to Mankato, you said.
I went to Mankato and joined up, and no problems at all. I lied about my age, and they didn't ask anything. They took it for granted that my mother had signed. My mother was a widow, and I was sent down to get my physical, and I didn't pass it because I was underweight. And the guy says, there was a little grocery store on the corner. He says, you go down and you buy yourself a bunch of bananas, about 6 or 7 of them, and eat those and drink all the water you can. And then you come back. And I gained pretty near a pound during that time. So then I trained at Great Lakes Naval Station, and from there we went to Farragut, Idaho for 2 weeks, and then we shipped out for overseas.
Just about the way I went.
Yeah.
Okay, John, you want to give us a shot at your start?
My home was Chatfield, Minnesota. My dad was the high school band director there and everything, so I went to all 12 years of school in Chatfield. And I was a senior in 1944. And in April, I went up to Rochester and enlisted in the Navy. And they said, well, everything looks okay. So they gave me the credentials and stuff, and they sent me down to Minneapolis to get, the final test and everything. And I got down there and they discovered I had a hernia and also I was colorblind. In the Navy, colorblind is really the thing that they don't, that really put me out. And so they said, well, maybe when you come up in the draft or something, you can choose the Navy because they're doing that. And I said, well, okay. So I walked out and down the hall, there was an office that says the United States Maritime Service. And that was, sailors and everything. So I went in there. I told the guy what had just happened, and he said, you had all your physicals and everything? Yeah. And I said, I told him what happened. And he said, well, we're not worried about things like that. So he swore me in. So I ended up in the Maritime Service. And when they did call us, we left out of St. Paul. I think there was 25 or 30 of us. And they sent us to Brooklyn, New York, Sheepshead Bay Training Base.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, right next to the Coast Guard, Manhattan Beach. And Coney Island's right there, too.
Yeah.
And that's where I took my basic training then.
Okay.